the decision to surrender to God and come back to being a human being rather than human doing, that decision led me to this like beautiful release that opened up to what I call radical forgiveness rather than ordinary forgiveness. It led to emotions being expressed that had been suppressed, like a virus that was just a virus, like sucks and thrives and like festers in the body, but as soon as it's expressed, it dies and it's killed off. Those emotions that had been shoved down from childhood and experiences just up and out being expressed and released. And there was this divine connection that ended up happening.
Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the Empowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over six figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudyricksteins.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Aniston Ricksteins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Ricksteins, and I am so excited to have you here today. I'm excited every time you spend time with us on the Empowered Life Podcast because we love to bring you people that are changing the way you think about how you show up in your life so that you can live the most incredible, beautiful, and inspired life possible. Today's guest is somebody that I've known now for almost 2 years. I've had the pleasure of sharing space with this incredible soul, and it has taken us that long to align ourselves to be on this platform together today. We're so excited to be able to have this, what will be a beautiful, divinely led conversation. I'm going to be introducing you to someone in a few moments' time, but I want to set the stage for who she is and why I'm excited to bring her forward onto the Empowered Life Podcast. You know, when coaching started to become really mainstream, I would say was really about 5 to 8 years ago. And this is when everybody decided they wanted to become a coach and coaching became a catchphrase. Whereas Alejandra has been coaching for over 21 years. She is one of the pioneers in coaching. And when we talk about the people that laid the foundations for what did coaching look like and the impact that it's been able to create in people's lives, there are very few people that stack up with the resume that extend as far as her reach is extending. And I say that because she's only just getting started. She is the creator of the 180 method, which is a God-based coaching system. I love so much that she's bringing back God into business, God into people's lives, into supporting them achieving their highest and their greatest potential. She herself is not only a pioneer in coaching, but she's a pioneer in life itself, having achieved tremendous success, both personally and professionally. She's not somebody who just does the talking. She's walked the walk at the same time. Has an incredible story, and you get to hear all of it in today's episode. Alejandra Crisafulli, I'm so excited to have you join us on the show today. We call you the baller coach. When you text me, it actually says the baller coach is texting you. I love it so much. Welcome to the Empowered Life podcast. Alejandra, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh my goodness, Rudy. Likewise. I am so honored and excited to be here. And divine timing, you got to trust that there was a reason why we weren't meant to have this until today. So we're going to have a powerful conversation as, as we unfold here, and something amazing is coming for you.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for joining us on the show. I started today, obviously, setting the foundation for the incredible impact that you create in people's lives. The fact that you created this method, the 180 method, which we're going to talk about, no doubt, at some point in the episode today. But what I really want to start off with right up front is, why is it important to you to bring God back into coaching? And specifically, my passion obviously is supporting people with coaching inside of businesses. And you don't hear that very often. And most people shy away from talking about God when they're talking about coaching. And that effective coaching is holding people accountable and moving them forward. And yet you go right into it. And it's a beautiful approach. And so I would love to know, why did you decide to create an entire methodology around bringing God back into business and coaching?
Yeah. Fundamentally, we cannot heal without him. Like, you need God in order to heal at the levels that every human being requires healing at. And the reason why I say that is, one, because I've experienced it in my own life, but I also have experienced it through the thousands of clients that I've worked with. And I've been given this very unique opportunity to have done this work for 16 years without knowing God, and the last several years with knowing God. So when I first started into my life coaching journey, back when, again, nobody knew what life coaching was at that time, as you were saying, I was in this just ferocious state of, my life sucks. Excuse my French, but it did. It was really challenging. I was found myself pregnant. The father of my daughter decided he wanted nothing to do with us. I was struggling financially. I had massive debt. I had a great job, but I was just like completely stuck and felt a lot of shame, guilt, self loathing, not good enough, all of this stuff. And when I went down the path of traditional self help, at the time it was therapy, it was not helping. The self help didn't help. And so I found that, there's got to be something else. And I was actually introduced to someone who was a life coach at that time, and went through the program, and was like, it changed my life. It was amazing. Met my husband. We started another company. We also have organic coffee bars here in San Diego. It's a multi-million-dollar company. So we were very successful. And on the outside, everything looked great. Yet, on the inside, I still was struggling, even though I had done a lot of healing and my life had changed. I knew that there was something missing, Rudy, but I just could not put my finger on it. And I kept going to other types of what we might label traditional self help modalities, affirmations, somatics, meditation, yoga, Buddhism. Like, I was just like, new thought movement. I was just like involving myself in everything, and nothing seemed to fill this void that was within. It just was like gnawing at me. And I was at this, like, I almost fell into like a perfectionist cycle of trying to perfect it all just to see if that would fill the void too. And then I had a massive breakdown where I got really sick, and I found myself in the hospital, and while I was there, I had a massive panic attack, but they thought I was having a heart attack. So here I am with like this EKG machine, all these things on my chest, and I'm like freaking out, thinking, how did I get here? I've helped people with this. I've done the work. What is going on? Um, and I got stuck. I got stuck in that panic attack, and it led to massive anxiety, insomnia. I had to get on medication, which was a whole thing in itself, just so challenging because I was so prideful. I never thought I would have to be on medication. for my own like mental health. Yeah, it was such a hard period. And thank you, God, that I went through that, because that is when I met God. And I do feel like he reached down in the deepest, darkest, hardest part of my life and pulled me out of that and said, enough, we have work to do. And I started to immerse myself into reading the Bible. I was just in this ferocious state of like, I want to know who he is. And as I was reading things within the Bible, Rudi, I started making these connections of like, wow, this concept, this self help concept was pulled directly from something Jesus said, extrapolated, and turned into this other thing. Or this thing that was said, over 2,000 years ago, is now being said in this way, but it was first said here. It was just so enlightening to see where the truth was. And this book of life that I had rejected and thought was ridiculous for most of my life was now the complete answer. And the healing that occurred in my life is a 180, and hence where the 180 method really took hold, and recognizing that you can do a lot on your own and create a lot of movement, but if you genuinely want long lasting, true, fundamental healing, that connection has to happen with him.
So, I want to touch on a few things that you've shared. For the benefit of the audience, I love to give them additional layers of context to what anyone is saying. And uh, what's so beautiful about your share is that you achieved tremendous success in your professional life. You were being very humble in the success of your coffee business and brand. You were also very humble in the over 5,000 people that you've worked with in the capacity of life coaching. So it's not to say you were very new at this, very, very proficient at being able to support people to create shifts and changes. Um, and what's so incredible, and I want people to really hear this, is that regardless of who you are, where you are, what you've done, there's always more. There's another level, there's another layer. You always get to go deeper and further. Uh, I, interestingly enough, work with so many coaches because they don't know what they can't see. And we're always so close to what we're doing and what our life looks like. We can help other people because we're looking this way, but we're not always looking this way. Um, but what I want to emphasize here for a moment is that in what was one of your darkest moments, you were able to find clarity, but you were only able to find the clarity because you created the space to find that clarity, right? Where you began your relationship, your conversation, if you will, with God. And I always believe that everything that we're doing is always preparing us for who we get to become. And I look at your life of serving people, being a coach, doing it the way that you knew how, and then eventually you getting to a plateau because you had applied your content, you had done what you'd done to achieve tremendous success, the beautiful relationship, the business. The health took a shift because that was the pivotal moment that was anchoring you for where you get to become. I met you after your journey turned. I've only known you as the powerhouse version of you that stands in your true power and speaks your truth. I would love to know from you now, having both sides of this coin, of what do you think is the biggest catalyst for shifts and changes? I want to just anchor for a moment that our audience aren't necessarily all Christians. It's just all forms of people who are deeply and beautifully and profoundly reminded that we're spiritual beings living this experience. And so I speak into God, and we get to name who and what is our God to us. But I do think that the fundamental core is that we should be grounded in a faith. We should be grounded in what we believe is greater than us. But I would love to know that what was that big shift for you that supported you in creating the greatest amount of change when you started applying your belief into the work that you were already doing? Because you beautifully said it created a 180-degree shift in your life, a 180-degree shift in the lives of your clients. I know people that have been certified through you and your practice and the profound shift they create in people's lives. So it works. but I would love to know from you, what did you feel was the greatest shift in having that perspective change?
Yeah. Greatest shift for me was something you've probably talked about and spoken of, but it happened in a very different way, which is surrender. um Surrender being, this thing that we all struggle with, yet know that it is a big part of what allows our true self to emerge, or at least the next level of ourself to emerge. Because when we, or I, was in that state of complete control, there was a very ego driven self pride and preservation and self reliance that I was within. And for me, the self is it's powerful, but there's limitations to the self. And when I look at my ego, it's the acronym we use is edging God out. And so there was this surrendering that happened, Rudy, of being able to just completely release my ego to reconnect with God, and someone that, again, I didn't know at all before, and had a lot of judgments and preconceived ideas of who and what he was. So it was absolutely that surrendering. And what happened in that is, like, surrendering my ego to God allowed me to reconnect to my truest essence. Can I explain what I mean by that?
Oh, I was just going to ask you to give us an example because, I've had my own experience of surrender, but I'm sure the audience is thinking, I want to surrender. I want that. How do I get that? So, yes, please give us some more context.
There's two parts to us as a human being. There's the human, and then there's the being. So that's why we're called human beings, because we're both while we're here. The human part of us is everything physical, which includes the body, but it also includes our soul, which you wouldn't think is physical because it's like it's not something tangible that you can touch, feel, smell, taste. However, the soul embodies so many aspects of our human self. It's your mind, it's your will, it's your personality, it's your beliefs, it's your behaviors, it's your ambitions, it's your feelings, emotions. And all those things are very human based things. It's also all the things that require healing, beliefs that I was holding on to, behaviors like perfectionism and control that I was running my life, all for the sake of keeping me safe or protected in some way from harm or what I thought was going to hurt me if I didn't succeed or do what I needed to do, kind of thing. The being is our spirit. And this is that part of us that's directly connected to God. It's what we are before we come into the physical human form, and it's what we'll be when we leave the physical human form. And the spirit is like, oh, that's where the true power is and where we're like made in his image, essentially. And so what the surrendering that happened and happens through this 180 is literally a decision to release, because I think that people often get surrendering mixed up as though it's the action. It's not. It's the reaction to the decision. The decision is the action, the reaction is the surrender. Like, if I want to surrender my pen, I have to decide to release. So action, reaction. So the decision to surrender to God and come back to being a human being rather than human doing, that decision led me to this like beautiful release that opened up to, yeah, what I call radical forgiveness rather than ordinary forgiveness. It led to emotions being expressed that had been suppressed, like a virus that was just the virus, like sucks and thrives and like festers in the body. But as soon as it's expressed, it dies, it's killed off. Those emotions that had been shoved down from childhood and experiences just up and out being expressed and released. And there was this divine connection that ended up happening to where now, Rudy, like, before, if I thought I had done something wrong, I was instantly like, okay, what do I got to do? I got to make it better and I got to control it and how many, or if I, yeah. The cycle, the 360 cycle.
Hey, it's Aniston Ricksteins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new #1 best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
I love your answer. I had shared with you right as you had said, can I give more context? And I said, I've had my surrender experience and I'm sure people are wondering. And so I just wanted to validate something you just said. I tattooed on my forearm a closed fist that is opening up, allowing sand to fall through. And that represents to me the opening of the hand. For anybody that's listening to this and you are not watching the video version on YouTube, I'm going to challenge you to go and watch it on YouTube, because what Alejandra did was she picked up a pen and actually held her hand with a closed fist and then said, it's the releasing, and then dropped the pen. And that to me is such a beautiful example, the way that you described it, because people, when they see my tattoo, say, what does that mean? And I have to explain the opening of the hand, the release and the surrender. And I think there's so much value in just learning to do that in every area of your life. Because I believe when we have the closed fist, we are also, as with the ego, we're emitting God from anything and everything. And the minute we open the hand, we allow it to flow to and through, which is what it's supposed to do. You so beautifully spoke about the emotions we keep in. And when you release the emotion, you allow it to flow. That's the opening of the hand. That's the extension of the releasing, of the surrendering. It is so beautiful. My follow up question to you, because you've shared with us now, what was it like for you, who was this master mindset coach supporting and moving people through life, and then to have this beautiful awakening, bringing back God into the work that you do, in the environments that you do them in? And the impact I had asked was, how did it impact you? Which is what you've beautifully shared. I would love to know, what is the difference you've seen in the lives of your clients? Because there has to be a reservation in, like, I'm really good at giving people orders. I'm really good at, helping people take accountability, to move forward, to take action, to see their blind spots, and that's what's made you so successful. But to now all of a sudden say, I'm going to bring in a softer side of this, and it's going to be bringing God back into the conversation. Very different approach. Your clients, I'm sure, would have a very different experience. Is it going to be as successful? Is it going to produce the same results? And I already know it produced greater results, but I would love for you to speak in a little bit of what was your experience of seeing such a dramatic change in the approach and the outcome.
Yeah, such a great question. Here's the word that came up specifically when you were asking. It's the naturality of how things unfold or occur. Here's what I mean by that. What I saw clients doing is that before, things were changing, but there was almost like a forced nature to it. There was work to it. Whereas now with the 180, what I'm seeing is that it's become such a natural occurrence. Healing, which is the main focus of what we're doing in the 180, not dealing, there's a difference. Healing happens naturally, because if it's not happening naturally, we will always revert back to what does feel natural. And so that's what I was finding before, is that even though clients were having breakthroughs, and there was lots of incredible breakthroughs, uh, relationships, saved. Because I work with a lot of couples. I also work with a lot of entrepreneur, high-powered women. Their businesses were making more money. They were communicating more effectively with their teams. But then there would still be a fall back into an old pattern, habit, behavior, even though they would have massive breakthrough. Now there's the healing. So breakthrough has to meet healing. They can't be separated because the breakthrough will only last for so long before you fall back to what's natural. So I even have clients tell me like, this is so weird. Like it's so different, but I can't even tell you what I've been doing that is so different. It's just it's just a natural way of being now versus what I was doing before. So that's the best way I can describe it, Rudy. It's like the naturality of how someone is changing in the way that the things that they wanted to change, behaviors they've been wanting to undo, beliefs they've wanted to be free from. The 180 and including God in that takes them to a place of it happening naturally because we're designed to heal naturally, like a wound, a flesh wound. You don't know, like at the moment that it happens, like, okay, now my brain, step one, I'm going to send white blood cells to the, then step two, it's going to, like, we don't know step one, step two, the strategy of healing, it happens naturally. So through this 180, clients have been able to go through the healing process that gets them to it naturally.
So my follow up really in hearing this, and I'm wanting to really ask, what is the audience thinking right now? And obviously, we have a lot of people that come on the show that have different forms of programs or healings. We're always wanting to align with people that we align with, and we believe that the power to have and to be and to do and to achieve already resides within you. That's why the podcast is called the Empowered Life, like the power to be is in you. But what we mean by that is that God is flowing to you and through you, and you are an extension of that force. Therefore, you are the force that created the universe. You know, it is you. You cannot be separate from God. We are all this extension of this divineness. And when we bring different people on that have different modalities in supporting people to heal, I imagine the audience sits and thinks like, I wonder if I'm ready for that. What would you say would be a indicator for somebody that's listening to this that would serve them to know that they're ready to do this work with you?
Yeah. That you are so sick and tired of doing the same thing and having done a lot of traditional self-help models or modalities that only feel like you end up in the same place. Like a lot of the work that you've been doing only seems to work for a short period of time and then you're right back to where you were before, which is, by the way, where the name of the 180 method came from. We're doing a 360 cycle, whereas the 180 is literally a directional shift where you literally turn to do something different. It can't just be anything different, though. It has to be the right different. So it's really that, just being in that place of, I'm so done. I've tried everything else. I've done everything else. I don't know why this keeps happening, and I am ready to heal.
I love that you talk about the word heal so often. And for some additional context, you have a phenomenal podcast, Decide to Heal. And I'm going to encourage everybody to go in and listen to the podcast. I'm going to put the podcast into the show notes so it's easy for them to be able to find an action. But I want to touch on that for a moment because not enough people really talk about it. I do think that we are connected to this tapestry. I do believe that there is a divinity in everything, and there's an intelligence that we don't need to understand. You know, I was having a conversation with my father last night about quantum energy, and I had recommended a product to him, and he said, "But I don't understand how it works." And I said to him, I don't actually need to know how it works. Like, I'm not smart enough to understand how this company can narrow down this one thing, create this change, and impact, the quantum physics of this item. Like, I just know it works. And so, the same way I don't fully understand electricity or I don't understand, the inner workings of a combustion engine. Like, I don't need to. I just know the end result of what it is that I'm doing. But there is a natural order and divinity, that intelligence that I'm referring to, that is in the healing process. The same way you spoke about the healing of a wound, there's also a natural flow in the order of the healing of the heart. What would you say to somebody that is going through something right now? Maybe they have an internal dialogue. They're struggling to identify with who they are, where they're going, what their life looks like. They've maybe gone through a shift, or they're planning to go through a shift, maybe leave a job, start a new job, move into a different career, leave a partnership, challenge or question the partnership they're in, but they haven't created the space for the healing. You said it's natural order of the healing. And so, what would be a really good place for somebody to start right now to say, like, okay, I'm open to wanting to start that healing journey? Like, what does that look like if I were to start the beginnings of that journey by myself?
Mm. I think something that I love distinctions. Let me first say that. I think distinctions are important and bring a wisdom to the work that you need to be doing. So the reason why I say that is because it needs to start with a decision. Um, and I've honed in on that word a few times throughout the podcast. And also, I've labeled or called my podcast Decide to Heal, because things have to first start with a decision, but decision and choice. So here's the distinction that's important. They get collapsed together quite often, and they're very different. They utilize similar parts of the brain, but choice is, it takes flexibility. It's like there's more fluidity to choice. Today I can choose to do this, but tomorrow I'm going to choose to do that. Whereas a decision, the word decide actually comes from a Latin word. I'm going to butcher how to say this, but like decidere, something like that, which means to cut off. So you cut off every other option when you decide. And so it has to start with a decision to heal. Because if you're in this fluidity back and forth, you're wavering back and forth. And I hear from clients all the time of like, no, I decided I want to heal my marriage, or I've decided that I want to heal this belief that I'm not good enough, or I've decided, but yet they're still falling into the same patterns they were before. So if you are saying that I've decided to heal, yet you keep doing the things you're still doing, that is not a decision. You've chosen and you're wavering. It has to come with a very concrete, I'm done. I am no longer going to keep doing this thing or going down this path. And now I need help, which is where the surrendering comes into play.
So, how do you support somebody to understand the difference between those two when they're in the moment? And I'm going to use an example because 2 days ago I was at an event and a guy comes up to me at the end of the event and he says to me, "Man, I love everything that you've just said. This is in a corporate environment. I love everything that you've said. You know, it's really challenged me and who I am and what I'm thinking." And he's like, "I just realized today." He's in his mid 50s, and he said, "I've realized I've never been in love. I've never had a real soulmate relationship, and you reminded me today that that's possible for me. I want to have that. I am committed." So this is his terminology. "I am committed to being in a loving, committed relationship with my soulmate, comma." He say inserts a comma and then says, "But my heart is closed." And so that's a perfect example of somebody who is choosing, not deciding. But I would love to know if you were coaching someone that's listening to this right now, because I bet you if I asked that gentleman, did he make a definitive decision? He would have been like, heck yeah, I did. But he didn't, clearly through the terminology. So what would be your advice to somebody to self-diagnose as they're listening to this episode?
Self-diagnose, it's hard because you have to be conscious and aware enough to know what it is that you're actually saying. Language is powerful. It's not the end all be all, but there has to be this consciousness of taking a pause moment and going, wait a second, what did I just hear myself say? Because if it were him having a conversation with me when he said, "But my heart is closed," I would have asked him, "Okay, what did you just hear yourself say?" Because then it turns that back around on him to go, I actually don't know what I was saying exactly. We're not conscious to what you were saying. And the unconscious conversation is more of the truth, not what you were consciously saying. So, because he was probably conscious to saying, I'm ready for this. I realized I haven't had that loving, intimate relationship. but my heart is closed. That's where the unconscious part came from. So you have to have an ability to stay present and really pause to ask yourself a bold question of, what am I actually saying? What am I hearing myself say? And then if you're honest with yourself, that's the other piece, is really genuinely being honest with yourself. Because let's face it, we are liars. We lie to ourselves all the time. I'm going to get up early today and go to the gym, and then I don't. I'm not going to eat that piece of cake tonight, but then I do. Like, we do this all the time. So yeah, it's that honesty, which is why it's challenging to do work on your own. You can, obviously, but the power and the strength is when someone is there to support you, guide you, lead you, who's not in the midst of your challenge or pain. The other thing I would add to that is, what are you hearing yourself say? Or how do you know that? So when he was saying, I am committed to, okay, how do you know you're committed? Because it's very easy to say, I'm committed, but then the but comes in, my heart is closed. So if you ask yourself, how do I know I am committed? Well, the answer would need to be, because I am surrendering the closing off of my heart. That's how I know. I am ready to release and surrender the need to close myself off or protect myself from love.
So if somebody was wanting to work with you or to expand their healing journey through the 180 method, somebody that's maybe been certified through you, um, but they aren't, maybe they're not in a place of strong faith, would that be somebody that you would suggest work with someone else, or would that be the perfect gateway for you to be able to support them?
Yeah, great question. Most of my clients aren't of deep faith. It's really, this is not about religion. And I think that's the important part. Another distinction, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And so the only thing that is required is an openness to exploring and deepening your relationship with God. So if someone is saying, no, I don't want to have a relationship with him, or I'm not open to that relationship, then yes, I would say then this program is not for you. And let me give you some other resources or people that you could maybe connect with. But if there's just an opening and a desire of like, okay, yeah, I do want to explore that relationship, then beautiful, we're set to go.
So, what does the 180 method look like if you were to break it out? In a uh, giving us a vision of the journey. Is this something that is happening over, a 1 year period, 180 days? I'm just super curious.
Yeah. So there's two ways that it's delivered. One is through a group setting, which is delivered over 3 months. And then there's a one on one setting, which is 6 months. Regardless whether it's the 3 months or the 6 months, there's four pillars that we walk through in the 180 to make it tangible for the human part of us to understand and have some level of knowing, but also incorporating that reconnection to God and that being side of us. So the four pillars walk them through how to be able to do that.
Beautiful. I knew when I first met you that we were so similarly yoked in just how we show up for people, the mission and the purpose behind the drive, which to me is always really important, is what is somebody grounded in. Um, I love that you have such a robust depth of knowledge in your own life that you can bring into the work that you're doing. And so many people are in a self development space so that they can make millions, so that they can make, money for themselves. They grounded in good, but they want to make money. Whereas you made money and then you brought in some of the practice and principles of how you've been able to support people. I also love that you are so deeply and beautifully grounded in your faith, and yet your terminology still speaks into the human and then the being and the soul and the experience. And it's a wonderful mix of what does it look like to live a life when you've got a new vantage point. I love to remind people that our lives are always about experience. It's collecting these experiences, and through experiencing them, we get to turn around and teach them and share them. And you can only teach something that you've learned. You can only support people to heal to the degree with which you yourself have healed through your journey. And it's in that journey of sharing that vantage point and just spending time with you, sitting next to you, talking to you, breaking bread with you. You have a breadth of knowledge of life and of having learned so many vantage points of being able to support and encourage and nurture people. And yet you are fiercely um powerful. Your energy is fiercely powerful, which I think is something beautiful to share because you are a powerful female leader supporting people. You work, I know, with anyone, but you do work with a lot of powerful female women or aspiring to be powerful women. I would love to ask you as a really random closing question today, but you are the baller coach. And I would love to know what made you come up with the baller coach? How did you get the title?
That's so funny that you ask. I have a lot of people ask me that. I was looking to rebrand with, this shift, and I was with a client. I was with a client, and we were doing a VIP day of some sort. This was a while ago now, but yeah. And I was telling her, I'm looking to rebrand, and she was like, "Gosh, you know what though? I don't," because I was giving her some names I was thinking of, and she's like, "You know what though? Those don't fit. You're such a baller. Like, you need to tell people what a baller you are." And we both kind of went like, "Oh my goodness, that's it." But there was a part of the baller that felt like, okay, I don't want that to be misunderstood because, typically that might look like I'm rolling in all this cash and like, okay, yes, like you were saying, I have wealth, but I didn't want it to be projected in that way. So here's what the baller really means. It means that we choose to win the fight against fear, to speak truth through through truth instead of falsehood, to promote wisdom rather than confusion, and to focus on faith beyond obstacles.
I am going to interject. I know you were going to keep going. I wanted to share with you. Wow. When I asked you the question, the reason I asked you the question was because, when I first saw your name on the chart of people speaking at an event and I heard the baller coach, I immediately conjured my own thought as to who you are and what are you going to talk about. But then having met you, that wasn't necessarily my experience of who you are, so I made my own interpretation of what I thought the baller coach was. And that was you speaking wisdom through compassion. That is my experience of you. And you just mentioned that in such a beautiful way because your energy really is, it's an authoritative voice, but it's done without the need to occupy all the space in the room. And I think that's what's so beautiful because there's an authority in that. And you only get that from having journeyed a beautiful life. And so thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your brilliance and your genius with us on the Empowered Life podcast today. Super excited to introduce our audience to you, to your work, to how you show up. And obviously, we're going to put all of your information, your website, your podcast, link into the show notes. So if people want to reach you or find you, but I just wanted to just thank you, for being an incredible human being, and for answering the call because we all get the call. We don't always answer that call, and for just beautifully sharing you, your life, your journey. And I know so much more of your story. There's more that can be, found and unfolded because I do think there's tremendous value in your life experience from going from the relationship that you were in to being single to having to figure life out to re-identifying to the constant this re-evolution of who you are and how you've transformed, but all of it beautifully prepared you to be able to show up for this show today. So thank you
That's
for
right.
joining us in the Empowered Life podcast. We
Thank
love you.
you. Love you too. Appreciate you.
To everybody else, thank you for joining us in the Empowered Life podcast. We love you as well. And I'm going to ask you to please rate, review, subscribe to Alejandra's podcast because every time you smash a 5-star rating on a podcast platform, it supports them in reaching more people. It is the closest, easiest barrier of entry to support somebody in the podcasting space. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and support her in her mission so she can reach, empower, and inspire more people. I'm going to ask you to join us on the next episode of the Empowered Life podcast. And until then, have an amazing day and enjoy the rest of your week. We love you guys. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.